Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to my video presentation and thank you for your attention. My name is Mohammad Iqbal Maulana. I am a student of Communication Science at postgraduate at Universitas Islam Bandung, West Java, Indonesia. Besides me, in this research team, there are Aning Sofian and Kiki Zakia. Today, I will present my research entitled Postmodern Lifestyle Construction, Norman Fairlock Discourses Analysis on Journal Content, website www.modernalisator.com, which was submitted to the Social and Humanities Research Symposium SoRes, which was organized by Universitas Islam Bandung. In this presentation, I will share 5 parts. The first one is the introduction, theory, methodology, result, and conclusion. So let me start my presentation. Thank you.
So in this research, I will begin with introduction. Postmodern lifestyle make a differentiation and alternative perspective. The striking difference is in how to characterize the differentiation adopted by postmodernists and modernists is that the formation of differentiation from modernism is more distinctive towards a uniformity, whereas postmodernists and difference that are not to be uniform. As for the alternative itself, for postmodernists, how to position themselves on a path that is not mainstream in the sense of leaving the big narrative standard or the structural nature of the modernists. The massive development of postmodernism discourse in the social work cannot be separated from the current development of media consumption and popular culture is accepted by growing audience simultaneously from consumption to production. In the realm of media culture, postmodernism closely intersects popular culture practice. There are 3 texts in this research that we analyze which are related to the postmodern lifestyle, especially the postmodern horror style, namely Videodrome, Superdrug Times, and Ex Machina. Then I use theory, social construction, social media construction identity of reality. In a sense, media content is the result of reality construction with language as basic tool. Meanwhile, language is not only a means of representing reality, but it can be also determine why relief language will create this reality. As a result, the mass media has a very big opportunity to influence the meaning and image that result from the reality it constructs. Discourse analysis by Norman Fairlock. Fairlock emphasizes his attention to language as a exercise of power. Fairlock tries to analyze the practice of power in language by connecting the social context of a society with text analysis based on linguistics. And the research methodology. The method used in this research is discourse analysis method, and this research uses a qualitative research approach, and this research uses paradigmatic constructivism. Result and discussion. The text analysis about Videodrome, the representation, ambiguity, paradox, and contradiction in this case of postmodernist horror, where media and horror discourses become instruments to illustrate postmodern image. Relation. The author involves a lot of knowledge about watching films that he knows with, then engages him with the audience. Identity. The author is a pro in responding to the film Videodrome, where he agrees with the composition of the media instrument and the concept of horror offered. And the second one about Superdrug Times. Representation, the ambiguity, paradox, and contradiction of this text is a romanticism discourses of teenage friendship which was initially mediocre, then faced with horror and traumatic behavior. Relation, the relational elements of this text more involvement in the readers of the 90s and teenage phase of today, which the writer tries to connect in the text. Identity, the placement of the writer's position is more towards adolescent romance experienced by the author, which is touched by horror, even makes the author amazed by the traumatic story of the postmodern style of horror. And the third one, about ex machina representation, postmodern style of horror, the elements of science fiction and horror, such a horror that is pulled from artificial intelligence technology, making horror illustration that are contradictory, ambiguous, and paradoxical in the field of horror. The relationship that is pulled is the readers themselves. As current user of artificial intelligence technology, this imagination is presented as a form of question mark to the reader. Identity, the writer is the pro with a postmodern horror style by expressing both the skepticism and the brilliance of the idea of horror. And discourses practice analyze in the production of text in the interpersonal involvement between brand owners and brand maternalism disaster affect the creation of text journal content on maternalism websites is a form of influence from popular culture which they consume which they then produce and reproduce them again. As a brand, the consumption of postmodern horror style discourses affects the creative process of streetwear products. From a maternal disaster brand, the idea of horror fragmentation as a form of differentiation and alternative offered by maternal disaster within the scope of the underground or metal music scene. Discourses social cultural practice analysis. The the first is about situationalist matter that ignite the text in journal content are issue of popular culture within the scope of the text on horror from film viewing constructed on journal content. Seeing the consumption and production of popular culture by maternal disaster in postmodern phenomena can also be referred to as a simulation concept which then takes the form of hyperreality condition of media consumption. And the second one about institutional, the identity transmitted by maternal disaster is the experiential subjectivity of the internationalization of the maternal disaster, which is developed outside the internal, which is basically a distinctive and uncertainty cultural product because it takes the role of a horror subculture from a popular culture projection involving the identity of the underground or metal music scene. And the third one, if what's social, if we look at the cultural industry, this can happen at first. It can be seen from a flashback of the political tendencies of the new order, then the political tendencies in the reform era, where both political eras have gaps in the acceptance of these kinds of cultural industry, especially on the issue of horror culture, which is often close to the underground or metal music scenes, which has an impact on the movement of the maternal disaster brand, whereas in the New Order era, the underground or metal scene received a bad stigma, like the thuggery, while in the Reform era, even under the leadership of Joko Widodo, it received a positive response, so that social culture postmodern gets a place in social growth and even affect the economy due to the political acceptance of popular culture and also the underground or metal scenes. The last one about conclusion. The first, the postmodern lifestyle discourses is closely related to the ambiguous, the contradictory and paradoxical of postmodern style discourse from the postmodern style to represent differentiation and alternative forms of materialized media consumption. Number two, the journal content cannot be separated from the interpersonal influence of the materialized brand owner and also the author on the journal content, where the experience of media consumption and popular culture provide insight to knowledge and differentiation and alternative perspective in the formation of new identity and lifestyles. And the and number three, in terms of analysis of social cultural practice, it cannot be separated from social practice that involve political, economic, and cultural context. At the level of social practice, postmodern lifestyle includes the consumption of media and popular culture. The ideologies of capitalism and postmodern mutually resonate in determining social culture shift by looking at the growth of lifestyle in the flow of differentiation and alternative to self-identification in the vortex of social problems. Thank you for my presentation. Sorry about if my presentation is not maximum. And thank you. Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.